What if I told you that New Zealand has places that look so unreal? You might think they were created for a fantasy movie. Hidden waterfalls deep inside ancient forests, glowing caves that look like stars, beaches where massive cliffs rise straight from the ocean, and landscapes so remote that you can feel like you've reached the edge of the world. But here's the secret. Most visitors only see a small part of what New Zealand has to offer. Today, we're going beyond the famous tourist spots and discovering some of New Zealand's secret wonders. And stay until the end, because the final place is one of the most unforgettable landscapes in the entire country. Let's start underground. Deep beneath the green hills of New Zealand's North Island is a world that feels completely different from the one above. The Waitomo glowworm caves are famous for something truly magical. Thousands of tiny glowworms lighting up the darkness. Imagine sitting quietly in a boat, floating through an underground cave and looking up to see what appears to be a sky full of tiny stars. Except these aren't stars, they're living creatures glowing above you. And here's the amazing part. Once you leave the cave, you're surrounded by completely different scenery: green hills, farmland, forests, and open countryside. But New Zealand has another hidden world, and this one is surrounded by some of the most dramatic mountains you'll ever see. Down on the South Island, you'll find Milford Sound, a place that almost doesn't look real. Towering cliffs rise from dark waters, waterfalls pour down mountainsides, and clouds often hang low over the landscape. And here's something many people don't realize. Milford Sound receives an enormous amount of rainfall, but that rain actually makes the scenery even more spectacular. Waterfalls appear all along the cliffs, sometimes creating hundreds of temporary cascades. So if you arrive and the weather looks rainy, don't immediately be disappointed. You might actually be seeing Milford Sound at its most dramatic. But we're not done yet, because our next wonder looks completely different and it feels like another planet. Along the Otago coastline are enormous, almost perfectly round rocks known as the Moeraki boulders. Some are several feet across, sitting right on the beach as waves crash around them. At first glance, they look like giant stones placed there by someone, but they formed naturally over millions of years. And that's one of the things I love about New Zealand. You can travel a short distance and suddenly find yourself looking at something that seems impossible. But if you think that's strange, wait until you see what happens when the landscape turns completely black and volcanic. New Zealand sits along the Pacific Ring of Fire, and that volcanic activity has helped create some incredible landscapes. One of the most famous is Tongariro National Park. Here, volcanic mountains rise above landscapes filled with unusual colors, craters, steaming ground, and brilliantly colored lakes. The contrast is incredible. You can walk through a landscape that feels almost barren and otherworldly, then suddenly look across and see bright turquoise or emerald-colored water. And there's another side to these mountains, too. They're deeply significant to Maori culture, which reminds us that New Zealand's natural wonders aren't simply beautiful scenery, they're also connected to stories, identity, and generations of history. But now, let's head somewhere even more remote. The Southern Alps are the backbone of New Zealand's South Island. Snow-covered peaks stretch across the landscape, surrounded by crystal-clear lakes, valleys, and remote hiking trails. And some of the most beautiful moments happen when you simply get away from the crowds. Imagine standing beside a quiet lake early in the morning. There's almost no sound. The mountains are reflected perfectly in the water, and the only thing moving is the wind. That kind of experience is difficult to describe until you actually experience it. But there's one final wonder I promised you. And unlike the others, this one isn't just about what you see. It's about how it makes you feel. One of New Zealand's greatest secrets is simply its sense of remoteness. There are places where you can stand surrounded by mountains, forests, ocean, and sky, and genuinely feel like you're a million miles away from everything. And maybe that's the real wonder of New Zealand. It doesn't always need to impress you with something huge. Sometimes it's the silence, the clean air, the untouched landscapes, the feeling that you've discovered somewhere the rest of the world forgot. So, if New Zealand has been added to your travel bucket list, subscribe now because our next video is taking you to another incredible destination with hidden places, unforgettable experiences, and stories you probably haven't heard before. And if you're interested in exploring business opportunities, check the description below for more information. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next adventure.